stuff yourself. It's the Turkey Trot, which is a great family tradition in Jackson. And
You've done it.
I have done it. They have a 5K elite run and 10K run, kids half-mile fun run, I might do that, and then a 5K run and walk. And that is at Ella Sharp Park Thanksgiving morning. Just visit jacksonturkeytrot.com to sign up.
Joining us now is the Emergency Department Chair at Henry Ford Jackson Hospital, Dr. Brian Kim, and Pediatric Hospitalist, Dr. Bradley Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's that time of year, cold has arrived, and with that, seasonal issues, seasonal illnesses, viruses. We're going to start to see that this week.
Definitely are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So RSV has been the topic, right? And it's, I think my daughter was actually had it, and it's weird for parents. Maybe we'll start with kids. How does RSV differ from the flu?
Well, RSV and the flu are both seasonal viruses this time of year. They can both cause cold symptoms, so they can just start out as a routine cold. Both can also progress to worsening illnesses, so they can both affect the lungs and cause more serious illness as well.
What should people be on the lookout for?
Well, the majority of kids with RSV, let's talk about RSV. The majority of kids with RSV will just have a cold, and it'll run its course like a cold, and you won't know that it's RSV versus any of the other cold viruses. But there are some kids who do get more sick with it, and it can cause a condition, especially in younger kids, called bronchiolitis, not bronchitis, but bronchiolitis. And that means inflammation and infection in the lungs, so they can have wheezing and difficulty breathing and low oxygen levels. So we'll tell you a little bit more about what to watch for and when to go to the emergency department and see Dr. Kim and his team.
And Dr. Judge and his team as well.
Yeah, sure.
Can Dr. Kim, can adults get RSV?
They can. And the ones that we worry about, it's always two extremes, right? Are very young and then are very old with some type of immunocompromised condition. And we have seen that as well, but our focus has always been right now with the kids and you hear it in the news right now, how serious it's become throughout the nation as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really concerning. We're hearing these reports all over the nation that hospitals are filling up, their pediatric department or the ER filling up with RSV cases. Is this something that has happened in the past we just haven't noticed?
That's a good question, actually. It does cause a surge every year, and we get right to the brink sometimes of being overwhelmed. In a lot of years, the interesting thing about what we've all been through the last few years is that in 2020 we had almost no cases of RSV, so the hospitals were empty at that point. Everybody was social distancing, wearing masks, and not getting together, and so that's what helped prevent the spread of it that year. But this year does seem to be a much bigger surge, and it could be that there were a lot of kids who didn't get it in the last couple of years, so now everybody's getting it at the same time, and that could be what's creating this situation.
I think maybe difficult for parents with RSV is you don't know when you should take your child in to the doctor or the ER. When should you go to the ER?
The typical, parents are great. They know when their kid is sick, and some are so good that they'll try to remedy it at home.
Yeah.
But the things that we watch out for and that we see is dehydration, and the way they're breathing. You can hear that wheezing, and you see their nose flare, and they're struggling to breathe. Hopefully it doesn't get to that point, but those are signs that you have to bring your child in, as well as unremitting fever with the dehydration where they're not taking in oral intake as well. And so when they do come in, obviously they're at a point that we'll need to give them IV hydration and a protocol of what we call high flow oxygen if their oxygen levels are low, something that Dr. Judge and our respiratory therapist, Hannah Gonzalez, has set up and what we have adopted here at Henry Ford Jackson. It is a life-changing device, the high flow nasal cannula as we call it. and their hard work has led to helping a lot of children, not just this year, but in the past, Brad.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We've developed that over the last few years. Just before COVID, we were implementing that therapy for kids, and it's allowed us to take care of kids in Jackson and not have to transfer them to the children's hospitals. And especially with the children's hospitals being full, it's been really nice that we have that available right here.
How about kids with maybe asthma or another underlying condition? During illness and RSV illness, would they be more prone to a serious reaction or maybe more prone to the dehydration?
I think, and Brad and I both agree, yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. I hate to say it, it feels like how I felt with our adults over the last couple of years with COVID, when our kids are coming with this RSV and they have underlying asthma or maybe something else that makes them predisposed where their immune system is compromised. So of anything that we want to convey is that immunizations are so important, be it the flu and the COVID, because CDC, you can see on their website what you see in our state right now, those that have the flu with RSV or COVID with RSV are more prone to the worsening of this disease process.
If one kid in the house gets it, does that mean everybody in the house is going to get it?
There are things you can do to try to prevent that, but yes, it does spread very easily. It's spread through droplets, and you intake those droplets through your nose and your eyes. So distance helps. Hand washing really helps. My youngest daughter was born in the middle of RSV season. They had 2 other kids at home, so I basically set up a force field of hand sanitizer bottles that everybody had to walk past 3 bottles of hand sanitizer before they got to the baby, because the older sisters want to help, and it's hard for them to be told to stay away from the baby. So if you teach them to wash their hands before they touch any of the baby's stuff, that's one way you can help prevent the spread in the house.
I consider Brad a superhero, so he probably did have a force field around his kids, so for sure.
Well, that's, parents, we want to protect our kids,
Yeah.
in every situation. So I think this one's a little odd because of how long some of the symptoms can last.
You're right,
so I
Andy.
think that's a little tricky.
Yeah.
But again, with your guys' great advice about when to seek care and things you can do, I think people.
I did
people have a
want to
better-
mention that the American Academy of Pediatrics, aap.org, has a really nice webpage that talks about RSV with advice for parents. And it
Absolutely.
actually has a video that shows what difficulty breathing looks
Sure.
like, retraction, sucking in along the rib cage. And that's a great resource for parents.
So being a virus, is there a vaccine to protect against that?
Another good question.
Yeah.
There is not, but science is always evolving, and there are several vaccines right now in the works, and it's possible, they're saying, we could have one by next season.
Wow.
Had you ever heard of RSV before? I don't think I
No,
have.
not really. No.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people haven't heard of until their kid gets it, and gets it and has a more serious case of it. Yeah.
So what should parents be looking for? You mentioned the symptoms. I guess what's the tipping point where, okay, let's go to the emergency department?
I think the telltale sign is when they don't want to eat or drink anymore. And that's when, because kids love to eat or drink, whatever it may be, and when they cannot, there's something really seriously going wrong. Outside the most obvious thing about the struggles to breathe, but what we hear also lately is when they complain, when they're complaining that they're not eating or not wanting to eat, the other stuff kind of falls into place because they don't have any reserves to help them through that illness, because nutrition is a key importance for this as well.
Dehydration, of course, always on the mind of parents. Water, water, water. But what else is good? Are Propels and G2s, are those good too? Are those good to give the kids?
We don't prefer those. So Pedialyte or electrolyte replacement solutions are a better balance of electrolytes and sugars to rehydrate a young kid especially.
There's a lot of sugar in some of those.
Yeah, there are.
Oh, they do have the sugar-free
We have the 0 version of our house, so
right.
we compromise there.
It's kind of like adults, when they can't drink their coffee, they're sick, right?
Yeah.
They need to come in.
Yeah, they recommend the Gatorade for the colonoscopy prep.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard about that too.
right.
Yeah.
Lots of that, right, Brandon? So as we fear, we're going to be busy. Your hospital, your ED, going to be busier. Should people be afraid about coming in and getting exposed and all that?
I think the important message is if you're worried about your child's ability to breathe, you need to come in. Yeah. And we've got the capacity to handle that.
Brad and I have worked closely together on all kinds of pediatric-related emergencies. So, yes, please come in. I don't want that same scenario where we had during COVID, where adults were afraid to come in and they let their illness linger a little longer. So, by all means, to all the things that we told about watching for, the parents should watch out for, bring them in. Our team will be there to help guide you and help your child during this tough time.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to know, like we started out at the beginning of this conversation saying, the majority of kids will have a mild illness. It'll be a cold and they'll get over it. So if you're worried and you come in and Dr. Kim or a member of his team says, we've checked your child out and they probably have RSV, or we've tested and they do have RSV, here's what to expect. You don't have to expect that you're going to be admitted to the hospital necessarily. You may be checked out.
That's a great point,
be able to
Brad.
be sent home.
Because in some cases that it is a mild case for a majority, and so you probably will go home, but at least you'll be checked out and we could rest assured and have you follow up with your family doctor the next day.
Yeah, so be in touch with your family doctor, your child's doctor.
Thank you guys so much for all that great information and helping take care of our community. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Doctors Brian Kim and Bradley Judge from Henry Ford Jackson Hospital. More of the morning show right after this.